This is Straight Talk with Atlanta native Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shanan Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fann, the Preacher Man.
Well, welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Shanan E. Jones. And Shannon's going to be at home today. He's going to be broadcasting from home today. He's going to be doing the weather and the traffic, as he always said. That's what he's going to say anyway, y'all. But listen, if you'd like to be a guest on Straight Talk, all you got to do is you can call us at 404-308-0795, or you can email us at fan922@comcast.net. That's fan922@comcast.net, or you can email us again at fan922@comcast.net, or call 404-308-0795. Love to have you as a guest. Today we're going to be talking about the president's speech and the response of Senator Tim Scott and about racism in America. He was talking about that. He said there's no racism in America. That's what he said. And we're going to be talking about the racism in America, how many black people have been killed by police officers in this country since 1979. Boy, a bunch of people have been killed by police officers. But Shannon's going to join us now, and don't touch that dial. You stay right there. Don't you go nowhere. Share it with your YouTube family and friends, as well as we'll be talking about Black History Fact. We'll have Representatives Kim Schofield. How to say it's Kim Scott? Kim Schofield. She's going to be talking about what's happening in East Point on tomorrow, Saturday, in tribute to those families who died from COVID and family members, and the Representative Kim Schofield. She'll be doing that, and then we'll have with us the Solicitor General talking about his program in terms of restoring to justice. Don't go nowhere. Stay right here. A Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Shanan E. Jones. Well, Shanan, what's going on today, man? I tell you what's going on. Where you at, man? Where you at?
I'm in the Straight Talk Traffic and Weather Center, and we're just working on some reports and some forecasting for about the next 4 weeks.
All right, well, that's a good thing. Shannon's on location. I think he's at his own house. I think you're doing like they do on Lara and all them do on Good Morning America. You're at home today.
I don't tell people where my traffic center is.
That's the only way I can get to be on time. He has to stay at home. Hey, Shanan, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, Shanan. It is a lot going on. Let me get my mic on. Let me get my mic on, Shanan, because
that's gonna help us hear you.
Do what now?
That's gonna help us hear you. You might. Now, you do talk loud. We need your mic.
Oh, okay. So you mean to me that? Okay. You sound out loud. Okay.
I didn't say you had no big mouth.
No, you say no. What you say? That's all right. You say I got my mic on today. I got my wash on and everything. But it's all good. It's all good in the neighborhood. But listen, we got so much going on, man. This is a Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Shanan Jones. Shannon's on location today. I forgot to say all of that stuff. He's at home, and he don't have COVID.
I'm in the office. I'm working.
Well, that's a good thing. Listen, this is what I want to talk to you about. You know, we got so much going on, and of course, the president's speech last night was wow. It was like, wow, man. I mean, he talked about giving people $15 an hour. He talked about the PRO Act to make sure that people had the right to organize in terms of union, to give people job protection and an opportunity to negotiate their salaries. He came from the heart with that. He talked about the Family Act in terms of making sure that families can continue to get that benefit in terms of per child each year for up in 2025. That's a great thing. He talked about that. He also talked about $3,600. He talked about that. So it's a great thing that he talked about doing that, Shanan, and I appreciate him so very, very much. And thank you, Connie. I appreciate him so very, very much, because what he's doing now is he is showing America that he cares about American families, family value. And Shannon, he talking about public funds going into community college so that people who want to go to college can go at least 2 years without having to pay a tuition. Man, that's wonderful. I mean, he laid it. I thought it was just wonderful, wonderful. And the biggest thing is, he said anyone that's making over $400,000 a year, that he's going to increase their taxes and lower the taxes of the middle class families. Man, it made it very, very clear. And I know some of the Republicans, no, we don't want to do that because they taking their money and investing offshore. They're billionaires. You know, they're billionaires and millionaires, and they don't want to hear about no tax cut because they're cutting their money, right? They got to pay more in taxes. So all of that was said last night by the president, and I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. I enjoyed it. But, you know, I want to hear your comments about what you felt about the president's speech last night. Well, last night, the other night.
$2.3 trillion for infrastructure. I think Van Jones said something on CNN in the recap that I thought was very important. Biden said that if we are being out-educated, if we are undereducating our public, and the educational systems around the world are besting us, then it's important to know that if they have a better education, then they're going to be better prepared to be able to compete against us and to outcompete us in various ways, to best us. And so Van Jones said that China, this president is getting pushed back for infrastructure bill, $2.3 billion, which is putting Americans to work, building bridges. He said that the Republicans are pushing back on the infrastructure bill to build bridges. He said China is building cities. Van Jones said this on CNN, recapping the speech, is building cities. So it's important to know that what the president put forth today is not a dividing factor. What he put before America on yesterday was to put America on a firm footing to move forward. And I thought that it was a great speech. I heard the Senator of Texas, Brother Cruz, or not Brother Cruz, but Mr. Cruz, because he's no brother of mine. And that's not because of race, but it's because I don't think he's no brother.
I don't think he's no. Hey Shannon, I don't think he's no brother to his brothers.
He's no brother to his brother. But Mr. Cruz said that it was a boring speech. And it's a boring speech to him because he needs it to be a boring speech. He needs people to be asleep and to not awaken to what it is that the Republicans have been doing for far too long to diminish the middle class. Last thing I'm going to say about that, let me say this, that we see the rise of multi-millionaires and billionaires. And that's tantamount to a dictatorship country. When you go in a nation and you see the dictatorship, many times in Africa, we go there and we see the ruling class filthy rich. And right outside of the gates of their compounds, people are thirsty and hungry and dirt poor. The reason why we see so many millionaires and billionaires is because they're crushing the middle class. They're crushing the middle class and they're building up other nations so that they can crush the middle class and make more billions for themselves. And what Joe Biden said on yesterday is that's ending. That's ending.
And so true, because as we look at the economy, we look at the 1% gaining more. Middle class is absolutely positively gone. It's been gone for a while. And he is trying to bring back the middle class families and making sure that people making decent wages, that they'll be able to take care of themselves and their kids. And I think that one of the things is that, and this is one, I think that there are some Republicans who do not totally buy into some of the things that the Republicans are doing in terms of hurting people overall, because people who are, and I heard Tim Scott last night talking about and kept using the word Christian and believers and all this other thing that he was saying, and you know, in my sense, it was hypocrisy. Some of the stuff that he was talking about when he gave his analysis of the president's speech. I wonder, because what he said is that, and the biggest hypocrisy was when he said that one is that he grew up with a black mother. His father and mother divorced when he was young. He had to move in with his grandparents, with his mom, and they all slept in one room. And many of us know that story because many people live that story. And so they understand that. They also understand when he was saying that he's been profiled even as a black man. He's been profiled because many of us understand that because we've gone in stores and people have followed us around the stores because of the color of our skin. I mean, even our own have done that because that's what happened to Brother George Floyd, because he was allegedly passing a $20 bill, fraudulent $20 bill, where a brother called the police on him. So we even are profiled by our own people who look like us, of our same hue. So being profiled is nothing new for black people because of the color of our skin, right? But he then alleged, this was the thing that was a linchpin for me. He then alleged that there is no racism in America. There's no racism in America. And I want us to just hear this clip from him when he says there is no racism in America. Representative Scott, Senator Scott, will you come and make that statement to the people so they'll hear you say that? Let's see, Shanan, let's see him saying this here.
Clearly, America is not a racist country.
Did you hear that, Shanan? Did you hear him say that America is not a racist country?
I absolutely did. I heard him say that. I heard Tim Scott, and until Raphael Warnock arrived, he was the only African American in the United States Senate out of 100 senators. And America is not a racist country.
Let me just do some facts. I'm gonna do you to you today. With the data, I got the data here. The data says that there's been 180 black and brown people killed by police since 1979. This is going back to just 79. It's not going back further than 79, right? This data is. And there have been 17 black people killed after George Floyd. 17 recently. 17 black men and women that have been shot down by police since George Floyd. Now, George was killed May 25th last year, right? So we're coming up on his anniversary of his death. But the reality, they're still killing black people. Just the other day, killed a black man, shot him in the head, right? They said that he was running after them with the car. But how do you get shot in the back of your head if I'm driving my car towards you? How do you do that? Explain that to me, Shanan. Maybe you.
How do you do it? How do you do it? You absolutely do not do it. And what we see is not only racism, but we see racists practicing the act of racism, basically arriving again. J.B. Stoner, the former head of the KKK, Grand Wizard, Grand Dragon, I don't know how their ranking is, said that they would move from robes in coming days to those blue suits, right?
Right.
That notion, we talked about that. So we're seeing now that the Klan is an organization, but it's also a mentality. And we're seeing that mentality that's hiding behind the badge of serving and protecting. And that badge, unfortunately, for far too many, because of the systemic, historical hatred of a racist system, a thread that runs in this, that badge for many is still searching for the fugitive slave. it's still at war with black and brown people. So we talk about Brother Brown in North Carolina, Elizabeth, North Carolina, but we have to look at in Alameda, California. We're talking about how black and brown communities are. That there's a brother by the name of Gonzalez. What is his name? Mario Gonzalez. They did the exact same thing that they did to George Floyd. They pinned him down on his neck, and he couldn't breathe for 5 minutes, and they took his life. And so racism is not really on the rise again. It's just being filmed. We're able now to capture it and to show what's always been going on. And we absolutely are going to have reform.
Well, let me just say to that, you're absolutely
It's not
right.
going to be able to. Go ahead.
Go on, Shan. You're pausing. You want to finish your statement.
Because of him being afforded the borrowed privilege of being an appointed senator to be in a role, because he's proven that he can carry the water that they want him to carry, even when that water is against Tim Scott's own. Let me tell you something. Tim Scott has cousins last night that heard him say, if his grandmother heard him say Alaska is not a racist country, she would have called him up and said, boy, what's wrong with you? This country is absolutely racist. He unpacked the notion of why the country was racist, and then he came back and denied it. And that denial is what keeps this country where it is. That denial is what's moving this country really to an ideological, and I believe soon a physical, after January the 6th, 2021, I think that we might be moving to a real civil war in this country.
Well, let me just say this. You talked about J.P. Stoner and what J.P. Stoner said, but he also said, don't worry about the Negros, because the Negros will destroy themselves. And here is a clear indication of us destroying ourselves. You know, he talked about unification and how we need to be unified. And he talked about, the country. He said he didn't want to talk about the parties. You can see the arguments and the debate on TV. But this is clear in terms of us as a people being divided, that we have someone that would be in a position like him, that would drink the Kool-Aid, get before the American people, and clearly say to a group of black people that there's no such thing as racism in America. There's no such thing as racism in America, because he got to boot up. Because he's got to boot up, and because there are many blacks now who are head of corporations, there are many blacks who running corporations and those kinds of things. So that means that there is no racism in America. That's not a true statement. And people who live in America, people who understand that, even people in the cooperative America who experience racism on their jobs every day from some boss or some so-called supervisor, that racist overtone, and it happens every day, Shannon. It happens every day here in America. To say that there's no racism in America in 2021, when you look at all these black and brown people that have been killed, 180 of them, 180, and they're still being killed. Not only by police officers, the Rayshard Brooks case, the Ahmaud Arbery's case in Savannah, Georgia, that case, where there were people who were citizens, who were former police officer he was, and then now him and his son and a neighbor or a friend stalks Mr. Arbery and kills him. Thank God that the federal Justice Department said we're going to prosecute him as a hate crime. But because there is hatred of black people in America, it has been hidden for a while. But like you said, now that people have cameras, they can take pictures, they can take videos, they can show these things. Social media has exposed a whole lot of this stuff that's going on, because it's going on and been going on, and it never, ever stopped. One of the things that I think that, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back after the break. We got a couple announcements we want to make, but there's one thing that we never talked about. You know, we talked about Wayne Williams and the missing and murdered kids, and we're not even clear if Wayne Williams killed all of the people. If those kids, if some of those kids were not killed by people who wore the blue badge or people who were part of the Klan, they killed these young boys. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know, but we do know that racism is still alive or well in America. And it doesn't matter what Mr. Scott says. He's drunk Mr. Graham them Kool-Aid, and he can't make me believe, as a black man in America who have lived here for 70-something years, not to believe that there is no racism still here in America. We'll be right back.
He can't make himself believe. He can't make himself believe.
Well, we'll be right back. We'll come back, Shannon. We'll come back and talk more about that and some other things after these messages. Greg Fann, the preacher man, with Brother James Groom and Black History Facts, right here on Straight Talk.
This is one of only 2 known depictions of Anthony Johnson, the first legally recognized African-American slaveholder in this country. In 1621, Anthony Johnson had been snatched by slave traders and ended up working as an indentured servant in Virginia. Now, while indentured servants basically were slaves, that was one important difference. When an indentured servant's contract expired or was bought out, they were free, meaning the forced labor, the beatings, the all-around awfulness had an end in sight, and the owners were legally bound to honor it. Because of this system, Anthony Johnson bought his freedom, set up his own plantation, and became the plantation owner who almost single-handedly introduced slavery, as we know it, to the colony of Virginia when one of his indentured servants' contract expired and Johnson wouldn't let him go. Anthony Johnson took this indentured servant to court and sued for his right to own that servant for life, and won. Suddenly, slavery, not indentured servitude, became de facto legal in Virginia, and within 6 years, a whole new depressing chapter of American history was ushered in. Anthony Johnson, slaveholder. They forget about him, but we won't.
It's been Black History Facts with Brother James Groom right here on Straight Talk. Join us each and every Friday at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube and Facebook. Well, I'm here with Representative Kim Schofield. Kim Schofield is representing East Point, Southwest Atlanta, and parts of Southeast Atlanta, rather, and also College Park and other parts of South Fulton. And we're so glad to have you here, Representative. How you doing today? How you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you, Bishop Fann. It's so great to see you. I am excited about being here. I do represent District 60, which includes parts of Fulton, Clayton, City of Atlanta. That's the great cities of East Point, College Park, Forest Park, Hateville, and Southeast Atlanta. It's good to be here.
All right. You got a big district, baby. I tell you, you got a big one. Now, you're getting ready for a major event that's going to be taking place on Friday. You want to tell us about it?
Yes, COVID-19 has really impacted the lives of many, our family members, colleagues, our first responders. It just taken the life of so many loved ones. And so on this coming Saturday, May 1st at 10 a.m., we're going to be at the City Hall in East Point on Main Street, and we're going to be doing the White Flag event. And that's a signature event where we actually are putting down flags in memories of those who've lost their lives due to the coronavirus.
Well, I tell you.
And so we want everyone there.
So I'm sorry for cutting you off, but you want to invite out family members who've lost individuals during this COVID time, during this pandemic, to place flags up for their loved ones.
Yes, we know there are over 19,000 people in the state that have lost their lives, and there are people within East Point. About 47 people have lost their lives. So let's come and stand together and pray for those family members and our colleagues and those who have been impacted by the COVID-19 virus. This is our time to remember that they're loved ones and they have names. So on Saturday, we're going to honor the lives that were lost at 10 a.m. at City Hall in East Point on Main Street.
Yes, and she's urging you as well as myself. Get your shots. Get your shot. Get that vaccine. Get that vaccination. Protect yourself and protect your families and loved ones. Well, thank you so much, Representative Schofield, for just coming by and tell us about the event. And God bless you. God bless your family. You be safe. And God bless America. And keep on representing us in a great and fabulous way. I'm going to bring you back to talk about what's going on under the Demon Dome. All right?
Absolutely.
All righty.
Thank you.
If you're a resident of Fulton County, this Juneteenth could mean a different kind of second chance for you or your family. Register now through April 30th so that your records can be restricted so you can be a part of the Juneteenth expungement celebration happening June 17th and June 18th. Why you care?
I think the role of a prosecutor should be to look back to try and remedy past wrongs that have occurred in our unfair criminal justice system.
In Georgia, 10 million people, 4.3 million, 40% of the population have a criminal record. 40%.
In Georgia?
4-0.
Is that the biggest? What is that?
That's one of the biggest in the country. Nationally, it's about 25%.
I also want to clear up this notion that there's this big gap between the Jewish community and the Black community, because there are lots of African American Jews. So we're not just doing this out of a sense of charity. This is because it is the righteous thing to do, it is the right thing to do, and also because people in our community are folks who might get caught up in just because of the color of their skin.
And I saw so many people and have seen so many people who were much more talented, but for whatever reason they made missteps. And I got to see so many people who were good people ensnared in the criminal justice system. When I went to college, some of them went to jail. Wow, man. They were better athletes than me. They were better students than me. But for whatever reason, God had his hands on me. Wow. And so I'm looking back at those people now, and I have this great God-given opportunity to try and help.
So we serve a God of redemption, and we often have people who are falling, right, because of systems that man has built. And God has already given them their second, third, and fourth chance, but there are laws in place that say you can't get food stamps if you have this type of conviction. You can't live at this place if you have this on your record. And so what we're doing with this event is removing that barrier, right, for people to actually experience what God has already given them.
Register now at FultonRestorativeJustice.org. That's FultonRestorativeJustice.org. Or call the restriction hotline if you have any questions, 404-612-4827.
All right, we're back. Boy, Mr. Gamage and those individuals who are working in the Jewish community and this whole thing about restorative justice. So many, you heard the Jewish rabbis say that, there are Black Jews that have been mistreated and got records that now people cannot get homes, people cannot get apartments, people cannot get a decent job because they got a record. So to Mr. Scott's statement that there's no racism in America, maybe we're not killing them, Shanan, with guns. Maybe not killing them with guns, but like I know, they'll stop you on the street for a charge and they'll put 5, 6, 7 charges on you so that something is gonna stick and it mess you up for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And that's the way man, when I just think about Scott, I go back to the Brown case that we're on right now. And I love Keith Gamage and his restorative justice campaign, and was able to work with him on at least 2 of those. I was executive pastor at Ebenezer with the Solicitor General's office. I think Keith may have been, he wasn't there yet. But let me just say this. When I look at this Brown case, I was talking to a good friend of mine who explained to me, he did some time for a white collar club. And he explained to me that when you're in the system, you're in the system. He said that it doesn't matter whether you're a drug dealer or if you were hit with a fraud charge for some business that you were doing. He explained to me, he said that when he looked at the tape of them going to attack Brown, he said that he knew that was absolutely a hit job. He said that when he had first gotten out of jail, out of prison, excuse me, he said that he was in his home. He said his family they had lost their place, and they were in an extended stay place, getting ready to buy another home. He said, and around 11 o'clock at night, the police showed up at his home, at his extended stay. He said that he came to the door and they said, "We have a warrant for your arrest." He said, "You can't have a warrant for my arrest. I just got out of prison, and they don't let you out of prison if there are any pending warrants on you." He said, "So that can't be." They said, "Well, go get your paperwork." So he went and received it, got his paperwork, showed it to them, and they said, "You have a nice evening." He said, "Wait a minute. You came to my home saying you had a warrant on me. You came to arrest me. You have, it looks like a fugitive squad of officers out there to arrest me. So why are you coming to arrest me and I show you these papers and you tell me to have a good evening? Either you have a warrant or you don't." They said, "You have a good evening." And then he later found out that because he had a Mercedes-Benz parked out in front of this extended stay, that they went by and they read tags. And because his tag bounced back to him and that he was in the system, basically they were going in to see if possibly he was a drug dealer or something. So they were looking for him. And so when we talk about we talk about policing Black and brown community through the scope of racism. And we talk about this war on Black life, which is why we keep saying Black Lives Matter, because there are those that do want to harm and kill and disenfranchise Black life. In this case, they were literally just searching for someone to throw back in the system. And he said, had I never been in the system when they ran my tag, then they wouldn't have been able to do that. But because I was in the system, I'm fair game for them to be able to harass me each and every day. And they're doing it to many. He said, and that case right there, it was an execution. It was an execution.
I believe it was too, because it was all of them in the back of the truck. I mean, with guns they were ready to just kill him for any reason. Move. You move, we're gonna kill you. And that's what we've seen in many of these cases. You move, we're gonna shoot you. You move. The young lady with the taser. You move, we're gonna kill you. I mean, it's all about Black people being a threat, as I see it, in terms of, because we're resilient people. We're gonna make it. You give us something and we're gonna make it work for us. You give us no nail and no wood, and you tell us to build. We'll find some old wood and some old nails, and we'll bend them old nails and straighten them out, and we'll take that wood and we'll put that wood together and we'll build something. We're builders. We know how to do it. We know how to take a spokes from a bicycle rim and make us a goal. That's why many basketball players were back in the day were as good as they were, because they knew they knew how to survive. We knew how to make scooters out of our old skates and ride on a old board, and make a scooter and make carts without motors, go karts without motors. We knew how to do that. We're resilient people. Just give us what you want done, and we'll figure out a way to get it done. That's why many people in these corporations of Black people, they use them because of their skill set, their ability to be thinkers, their ability to be able to take nothing and look at it and say, I can make something out of this. But we're a threat to them as a people. And many people, because they use the spirit of oppression to oppress us by making us feeling less than who we are and less than what we are valued, and we don't value ourselves as highly as we should, because we're satisfied with that'll do. Many don't, but there's so many of us who still do. So many of it, because we hear things like what Tim Scott said and we buy into his rhetoric. The other thing that I want to say in regard to that is that we must really understand as a people, because as Tim Scott said, Georgia's law, voter law, is not a suppression. He talked about how we can vote. The times haven't changed. Well, he didn't read our law, because they can change the time that a vote from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening. It don't have to be from 7 to 7 in Georgia's new law. It doesn't. You don't know Georgia's law. You haven't read it. You said Mr. Biden had read it. You hadn't read it, because what you said is not Georgia's law. You know, you hear what people saying, you say this, say that. You give them nice little sound bites. But we who live in Georgia know what the law says. We have the law. We're reading the law. We're understanding the law. We're understanding the law. We understand what they're trying to get us to do. They're trying to get people not to vote absentee. Clearly, they don't want people in Georgia to vote absentee, because they know that absentee ballots have caused them to win their seats, and they see how absentee ballots, black people and brown people, used absentee and won this last election, and more people voted, as Mr. Biden said, in this last election than in any other election that ever been held. And they know it. So they setting up all the other 46 states trying to do the same thing. The same thing. Because they don't want people to vote absentee. And I just want to say to Mr. Rosenberger's credit, Mr. Rosenberger was smart enough, or somebody was smart enough to tell him, some lawyer tell him, you cannot require an ID, a Georgia ID, that they have to have one, if you don't make it possible for them to get it free. Because if you do, it's a poll tax, and that's illegal.
Right.
That's illegal.
That's right.
So I mean, he wants to talk about Georgia law. You don't know Georgia law. Read the bill, read the law yourself, and then define what the law says, because that is what the law says. Because early voting, he said they've extended days for early voting. No, they haven't really extended days for early voting. They shortened them. I mean, so what he's saying is, he's repeating, he said Mr. Biden had read the law. You haven't read the law, Mr. Scott. Stay where you are in South Carolina and leave Georgia law alone. And keep on drinking your Kool-Aid, because we see you for who you are. Read on. Go me slow down, sir.
The Uncle Tom that people called him. Excuse me. We saw this week that the election board, the Georgia board, began their meetings this week to assume more power over the county elections, dismissing the Speaker of the House. If we talk about a cancel culture, a woke cancel culture, they literally put in this law. They stripped the Secretary of State of the power and gave it to the legislature, only because this Secretary of State didn't find those votes for the president when he called for it. Only because this Secretary of State on 3 occasions certified that the Georgia elections were fair, were free and fair, and had no fraud. And for that, they stripped the Secretary of State of his power. They still, at this point, do not have a chairperson. There are 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat. They still, at this point, do not have a chairperson, because Brian Kemp has to appoint that person. And we're talking about there's no racism in America. We're talking about this law makes it easy to vote and hard to cheat. No, this vote makes it hard to vote, and the Republicans and those who are doing their bidding have made it easy for them to cheat black and brown people and poor people out of their vote and out of their voice. You talked about the resilience that we have. You talked about the fact that we could make a scooter without a motor, with skates. You're absolutely right. I remember my brother and I doing that in the late 70s, early 80s. Because my daddy, who had the money to buy us a go-kart, refused to do it, because he liked to see his sons out there building something and trying to make a way out of nowhere when all the other kids had motorized go-karts. But I'm not going to. You know, that I feel some kind of in a way on them. I'm gonna leave that alone because it made me the man that I am today.
He did.
That when everybody
Thank you, Horace.
we make it soul food. But here it is. Mitch McConnell tells business, stay out of politics, but give us your money. Kelly Loeffler tells basketball players, shut up and dribble. They want our ingenuity because our ingenuity built this country. But to Tamara's point, they don't want to give us reparations. To Roger Bruce's point, we still call them fighting for reparations as we dealt with on Straight Talk last week. They want black bodies to be used and our creativity to be used to enrich and to empower them, but they don't want to give you voice. They will never give us privilege, but they cannot deny us our power if we stay together. And what Tim Scott said yesterday, he defended white privilege at the expense of his own power. And that's an Uncle Tom.
Well, you know, Brother Scott has shown America, and they say he's a rising star in the Republican Party. But I think they said the same thing about Mr. Sullivan, didn't they? When he made him the chair of the National Democratic Party, right? They said the same thing about him, right? But Mr. Sullivan, he changed and said, oh no, what they're doing is not right. He said, he realized who he was in terms of what color he was. He realized that he was being pimped by them, and he said, because when they were talking about Mr. Trump, Mr. Sullivan said, no, he is not good for America. The black man who they made the chair of the Republican Party. He said, no. He's not the
Michael Steele.
Steele. I'm sorry, Steele. Thank you so very much. I'm thinking about Steele. Yeah, Michael Steele. Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor of Maryland.
Do it now.
Former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland.
Yeah, well, he said, oh, no. I'm not falling for the okie doke because I am an American and I believe in America that is a democracy that is led by the majority of the people that said this is what we want for our country. Not just what the party wants, not what Mr. Trump wanted, but what's good for America. What's good for America. Mr. Biden is talking about unifying America, bringing America together, even though Mr. Steele said he's not unifying America because he's pushing his agenda and he's not working with the Republicans. Well, I will tell you this. I'm neither Republican or Democrat. I'm who for the best for the interests of the people. For the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. I haven't seen that come from the Republican Party. I haven't seen that come from many people in the Republican Party. But I've certainly heard President Biden last night talking about what was good and how he was going to bring the people from the bottom up and looking out for the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. And I truly believe that he's a man of God, that he believes in God, and he knows there's life after death. Many of these people don't believe in life after death. So that's why they can do the things that they do. If we read the Bible, we read about the wicked king, the wicked leaders. We read about those people who were wicked because they didn't care about taking care of the people. They did not. And it's about taking care of the people. It's our money. We pay into the government, so we ought to be benefactors. We ought to be benefactors of the money, not just the 1%, not just the 1%ers, but the least, the less, the lost, and the left out need to be taken care of too. And I believe Mr. Biden is on the right track to look out for the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. Do I agree with everything Mr. Biden do? No. Do you agree with everything I do or say? No. Nobody will agree with everything anybody else or anybody says, but it's the core of that, the core of what he says, the core of what he's trying to do. Forget the rhetoric. Let's look at what people do. See, we get caught up in what people say and not what people are doing. But you got to look at what they're doing because what they're doing is actually what they're saying. And that's nothing but straight talk. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today here on Straight Talk with Shanan and myself. Hey, join us next week. You want to be a guest? Hey, Shanan will probably be here with me next week. This week he's at home taking care of something. Hey, so he say. But anyway.
Straight Talk Weather Center. Straight Talk Weather and Traffic.
Weather and traffic today. That's what he said. But that was Shanan. But anyway, Shanan, you want to invite people to join the webinar on Monday for CBC?
Absolutely. On Monday, May 3rd, we will, the Concerned Black Clergy will host Professor Jeffrey Sonnenfeld of the Yale School of Management, Associate Dean and CNBC contributor. On the Saturday of the Masters, the Saturday of the Augusta National Masters, he convened some 90 CEOs to talk about SB 201, the ramifications of that legislation in various countries, in various states, and how that work is eroding the progress that we should be making in America. So he wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal about this notion of U.S. corporations forging the next Great Awakening, and to speak to that and to work to that, because these corporations are made up of the people who would be disenfranchised by these laws, and it becomes the corporation and the heads, the CEO's responsibility to speak against the injustices that would hurt its own workforce. And so we're inviting him, the Concerned Black Clergy, to talk about that meeting that he had with those 90 CEOs. He had 2 days to pull it off. He targeted 120. He thought he'd only get 10. He got 90, because he said that many of them were upset that Mitch McConnell said, stay out of politics, but give us your money. And so they talked, and we want to hear about what they said. I'm also bringing a cabinet of black CEOs together to interface with them and to speak with them, and black clergy are concerned. So join us at 11 o'clock virtually, for Concerned Black Clergy. You can go to the Concerned Black Clergy face page, or you can go to www.concernedblackclergy.com. 11 o'clock Monday, May 3rd. You certainly want to be a part of this discussion.
You do. And join us again next week, right here, same time. Shanan and myself, the Reverend Shanan E. Jones, and yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man. Because this ain't nothing but what, Shanan? Straight Talk.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fann at FANN922@comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shanan Jones and Greg Fann, the Preacher Man.